Okay, good day today. So we'll be discussing about control structures in this video. So control structures is one feature in all of the programming languages that are present. I believe all of the programming languages implements control structures. So basically, control structures is defined as allowing programmers or the users in changing the order of how the statements in our programs are executed. So basically, when there is a point in the program wherein the program will go different ways or will change its flow. That's why it's called control structures. It controls the flow of the program. So there are two main types of control structures. We do have the decision control structures. This allows you to control the flow of the program in selecting specific sections of the code to be executed. And then we do have the repetition control structures or the looping structures. This allows the program to execute specific sections of the code a number of times. So basically repeating a block of code on a specific number of times. So we'll be dealing now with decision control structures. So for this video, we'll be having our if else and if else if control structures, and then on the next video will be about switch. So decision control structures, as we have defined earlier, these are statements that allows the program to select and execute specific block of codes while skipping other sections. So there are different types. We do have the if statement, the if else statement, and if else if statement. So we'll be starting with the if statement. So if statement is basically a statement wherein it specifies a code that will be executive if and only if a certain Boolean statement is true. If you can still remember, Boolean statements are statements that only result with true or false. So this is the syntax of the Boolean statement. Okay, so this is the Boolean statement. So as you notice, if you write the if keyword and then you write here the Boolean expression inside the parentheses, the Boolean expression must be a statement or expression that will result to either true or false only. So it will return an error if there is an expression that is not Boolean type. And then below it is the statement that you will execute if the Boolean expression here is basically true. So if the Boolean expression is true, okay, so it will result it with executing the statement here as it will execute the statement in this the statements that you have written in this part after the if header. Okay. And then so I'll just close this because it's not helping. It's not helping me. Okay. So, or you can write multiple statements, but you need to enclose it with braces. So just like this. This is the syntax if there are multiple braces. So if keyword and then the Boolean expression, and then you write the open brace, and then below it are the multiple statements that you want to execute if the Boolean expression is true. Okay, so if this is true, So the statement 1 and statement 2 will be executed. If the Boolean expression is false, it will not execute the statements 1 and 2, and it will proceed other statements below the if statement. So again, take note that Boolean expression must only evaluate to true or false. So this is the flowchart of the if statement. We already have discussed this in our algorithms and flowchart video. So the Boolean expression is basically a condition or decision. So if it is a decision, it must be in a decision symbol or a diamond. And the diamond or the decision symbol will go two ways. So if it is yes or no, if it is true or false. So in this case, the if statement, you write the Boolean expression inside the decision symbol, and then you write true here, and then you write in the process symbol that whatever the statements that you want to execute if the Boolean expression is true. And if it is false, as I said, it's only an if statement. If it is a false, it will proceed and terminate the if statement and proceed the statements below it. So this is an example code of the Boolean of the if statement. So we have here an user-defined variable with a data type of int assigned to value 68. And then we write if grade is greater than 60. So you can use relational operators for the Boolean expression. So grade is greater than 60. So if this is only a single line statement, so you don't need to put a brace between after the if header and before you will close the if statement. So again, if it is a single statement, you don't need to write a braces. So system.out.println, congratulations. So this is an example 2. As you notice, we placed curly braces, okay, just to make sure that the two statements are enclosed in the brace, and it is the block of code that you want the program to execute if the Boolean expression evaluates to true. So in this case, grade is equal to 68, grade is greater than 60. So basically, we know that grade is assigned to the value of 68. So basically, it is 68 greater than 60. So that expression will evaluate to true. So if it is true, it will basically print congratulations, and then on the next line, you passed. So we'll try later on NetBeans how it works. We'll just go through the different examples of if else, and if else if. Okay, so again, the Boolean expression part of a statement, again, I will emphasize in this part, it must evaluate to true or false. Okay, it must be a Boolean value. That means the execution of the condition should either result to a value of true or false. So you can use relational operators on this. And then a coding guideline also is that you need to indent the statements inside the if block. So this is the if block. The if block are the statements that you want to execute if the statement if the Boolean expression is true. So this part here is the if block, the statement 1 and statement 2, and it is a coding convention or guideline to put indent spaces here. Okay, we'll proceed with if-else statement. So the if-else statement, it is used when we want to execute a certain statement if a condition is true, and different statement if the condition is false. So earlier we discussed about if statement. So the if statement will only It is only capable of executing statements if the Boolean expression is true. Now, we do have another statement which is it will execute statements if the Boolean expression is true. It will also execute statements if the Boolean expression is false, and we call that as the if-else statement. So this is the syntax of the if-else statement. You write if, and then the Boolean expression inside the parentheses. Again, Boolean expression must evaluate to true or false. And then these statements here, as I hover the mouse, these statements will be executed if the Boolean expression will evaluate to true. Okay? Now, if the Boolean expression is false, okay, this part, the Boolean expression is false, it will not execute the statements 1 and 2, or the statements in this part. Okay? It will proceed to the else statement. Okay? Again, so the Boolean expression is evaluated to false. Okay? So if it is false, it will not execute the statements here. It will execute the statements in the else clause, which in this case, the statement 3 and then the statement 4. So this is the flow chart. Earlier, it's only an if statement. There is only one block of code for that, which is the true result. So in this case, we do have statements for true. We do have statements for false. Okay? So Boolean expression, again, it should evaluate to true or false. If it is true, it will execute the statements if the Boolean expression is true. And then if the Boolean expression is false, it will execute a different sets of statements if the Boolean expression will result to false. So we do have an example here earlier. If int grade is equal to 68, if grade is greater than 60, it will execute this one-line statement, which is system.out.println congratulations. And then else, system.out.println sorry you failed. So in this example, the grade is equal to 68 and 68 is greater than 60, so basically that is true. So it will only execute the statement if true, okay, which is basically the congratulations, and it will not execute the else clause. Okay, this part here is the else clause. It will not be executed. Now, let's say, for example, we change the grade into, let's say, 50. Okay, so 50 is greater than 60, so that is false. So if the Boolean expression is false, it will ignore the statement is true, the congratulations statement. So it will proceed to the else clause. Okay, so it means it will print sorry you failed. So this is another example, just showing you that you can put braces for multi-line statements. You can also put braces for single-line statements to ensure on yourself, the one coding, that it is part of the else block or else clause. Okay, so you can do it. If it is single line, you can put no brace, or you can put with curly braces. We'll now proceed with the coding guidelines. To avoid confusion, always place statements or statements of an if or if-else block inside brackets, okay, or curly braces. You can have nested if-else blocks. This means that you can have other if-else blocks inside another if-else block. So, but that is a different lesson on our next lesson to discuss nested if-else. Now we'll proceed with if-else, else-if statement. Okay? So earlier we discussed about the if statement that is only capable of executing statements if the Boolean expression is true, and we have discussed about if-else statement that is capable of executing statements if the Boolean expression is true and if the Boolean expression is false. It will execute a different sets of statements. So the if statement, the statement in the else clause of an if-else block can be another if-else structures. So this cascading structures allows to make more complex selections. That means you can put more than one Boolean expression. So this is the statement or the syntax of the if-else-else-if statement. So you write if and then the Boolean expression 1, that means it is the first condition or the Boolean expression. And then if the Boolean expression 1 or the condition 1 is true, it will execute statement 1. Now, if the Boolean expression 1 or condition 1 is false, it will not execute statement 1 and it will proceed to the next else clause, which is an else-if clause. If it is an else-if clause, it must have a Boolean expression. So, in this case, the Boolean expression 2 or the condition 2. Now, if the Boolean expression 2 is true, it will execute the statement 2. If the Boolean expression is false, it will not execute statement 2. It will proceed to another else clause. So, and then in this case, there is a else clause. So, it will print this. It will execute the statement 3. If Boolean expression 1 is false, proceed to Boolean expression 2. If it is still false, it will now go to the last resort, which is executing the statement 3 or in the statement inside the else clause. Okay? Question. Sir, can you put more than 2 Boolean expression? Yes, you can put more than 2 Boolean expression, as many as you can, as needed by the instruction or the program. Just make it sure that the Boolean expression is preceded by else if. Okay, keyword else if. So this is the flow chart of the if else if. So I want you to analyze this one. This is basically in our previous video, which is the algorithms and flow charts. Okay, this is similar to that, and just analyze on this. We'll proceed to the example. So this example, it has a grade equals to 68, and then grade is greater than 90, system.out.println, very good. Else if grade is greater than 60, system.out.println, I guess it should be good only. Okay, not very good because it's the same with the first one. So just erase this in your mind. It should be good. Okay, and then else system.out.println, sorry, you failed. Now in this example, grade is 68. So on the first Boolean expression, grade is greater than 90. So basically 68 is greater than 90 is false. So it will not print very good, or it will not execute the statement here. So the flow of the control flow of the program will proceed to the next else if clause, wherein there is a Boolean expression that is grade is greater than 60. Now our grade is 68. 68 is greater than 60. So it will execute the statements inside it. This one, system.out.println good. Sorry, it should be good. Okay? So that means it will print good. So if the Boolean expression 2, the grade is greater than 60, already evaluated to true, it will not execute anymore the else clause. Okay, it will ignore the else clause, and the if else if statement will be terminated. Okay, again, if there is one Boolean expression that is evaluated to true, it will not execute other else if or else clause in the statement. Okay, now let's say, for example, let's imagine that grade is equal to 52. Okay, So in the first Boolean expression, that is false. Basically, 52 is greater than 90 is false. It will not execute this statement. It will proceed to the else if and the next else if. So 52 is greater than 60. That is basically also false. So it will not execute the statement inside it, the good. So it will proceed, since all of the Boolean expression is already evaluated to false. Its last resort is to evaluate or to execute the statement inside the else clause here. Okay, sorry you failed. So common errors, the condition inside the if statement does not evaluate to a Boolean value. Okay, so it is very wrong actually. It will also execute an error, a compile error. For example, int number is equal to 0 and you just write number inside the Boolean expression, which is inside the parentheses of the if statement. It would issue a compile error. Okay, because it is expected that the parenthesis inside the if statement is what you call this is a Boolean value, which is true or false. So the variable does not hold a Boolean value. So another common error is you write else if without space. Okay, it will also issue a compile error. Okay, there must be a space, else space if. So using of equal instead of double equals. Okay, one equal sign, we already have discussed this in our programming fundamentals. One equal sign is an assignment operator. That means you want to assign value to a specific variable. And it is not a relational operator. Okay, so and it will not produce a Boolean value. So what operator that will produce a Boolean value is the equality sign or the comparison sign, or symbol rather, or operator, which is the double equals. Okay, which is to test the equality of the two objects or the two variables. So it shows here that it is wrong to put this number 1 equal sign to 0 in the parentheses because it is not a Boolean expression. It's an assignment expression and it doesn't basically result to any value. Okay, this should be written as number double equal sign 0. So this is another program. So let's just try this on NetBeans. So you can also try on your own how it works. It basically shows a implementation of if else if with a what you call this, a AND operator. If you can remember in our programming fundamentals, the AND operator will only evaluate to true if all of the Boolean expressions is true. Okay, if one expression is not true, that means the entire Boolean expression with an AND operator will evaluate to false. So eventually it will not execute the statements if it is implemented in the if else if statement. Okay, so we'll try this on our example. So let's say, so let's have an example of printing a numerical, a letter equivalent to your grade. Okay, let's say for example, create a program that will ask for your grade and print the letter equivalent. Okay, now let's try the if first. Okay, so let's say for example, if your grade is 75 to 100, so it will print A plus or pass. Yun na lang. Okay? So, if lang muna kasi yun yung first statement. Okay? So, let's create a project here. Okay, let's create a project here. I'm magnifying it so that you can see next. So, I'll just call it a sample if one. Then click finish. Okay. I'll just close it. I'll just make it sure that the font is larger. Okay. Okay, I'll just erase the unnecessary things here. So since our problem will need to input a value, so basically we need to import what do you want to use? Let's say we'll just use J option pane. Do you want to do that? So let's just try. Since we'll be using J option pane, we'll be importing javax.swing that J option pane. Okay. And then in our problem, it will just ask for one grade. Okay. So we'll need to declare a integer type variable. Let's just call it grade. Very cliche. Okay. And then since we need to input, so we basically need to use a J option pane input dialog box. Okay. So let's put it first in a string. Okay, temp string first. Okay, temp string temp is equal to J option pane dot show input dialog. Show input dialog. Okay, let's just null. And then this should be enter your grade. Great. Let's try if I'm correct. I don't know if it is correct. Okay, I'll try it first. I'm okay. So let's just delete that one. I think we can. I need to check. It. Sorry. String title. If you want to put string title, we need to put an option type. Okay. So grade. And then let's just write 0 for the input type. Let's try if it is correct, please. 0 is not. 0 is it's like a warning message. So let's use 1. Okay, that's clearer. Okay, you can type anything. 90. But it doesn't show any output yet because we did not include any statements on the output. So it is temporarily assigned. The input will be temporarily assigned to temp. This is because, as I said in the previous video about J option pane dialog boxes, the input dialog box will return a string type value. So you need to you need to assign the return value to a string type variable like this one. So we declared that string type variable called temp. Now if you want to manipulate the string type variable, let's say change it to a different data type, so you can also do it just like what we will do now. We need to convert the temp into a integer type variable. So By converting it, I believe you already know how to convert it using the parse int. Then, okay. Sorry, integer. Sorry, integer that parse int. Okay, you write integer dot parse int, and then you enclose the string type variable, and then you assign it to a integer variable. Okay, so that is your grade. We will now set up our if statement. So if grade is greater than 75. So I want to put a curly brace because I want to ensure that the block of codes inside the if statement. This is also your coding ethics for me, huh? Just so that I can see the block of each of the clause, if clause and else clause. Okay. All right. So according to the problem, it will print pass. Okay, let's just do that. So pass. Okay. All right. So this is our code. Enter your grade 1, and then grade is equal to integer.parseInt, and then our if statement, grade is greater than 75, and then curly braces, and inside the curly brace, if the statement is true. So this is our statement. If the statement grade is greater than 75 is true. So let's run the program. So if I will input 87, it will print pass. Okay, so let's also put a J option pane. Okay, so J option pane that show message dialog. Okay, let's use this. So show message dialog. A string message. Let's declare a string message in order to concatenate the message you want to put, because I want to put something like you passed. Your grade is, so I want to print the grade, and then grade So let's just copy this. This is basically what we want to display on our message dialog box. So we will need to save it on our message variable. Okay. And then that is what we will put on our message dialog, which is basically the message. It is a concatenation of your grade is plus the variable grade, and then this text dot and then space passed. The third parameter should be the title, so you can just copy this. I believe it is 1. So let's just try. Okay, so this is our code. 87. Ayan. Your grade is 87. Passed. Okay. So basically that is our if statement. Okay, example. So let's try to add there's a problem on this. Okay? Because on our on our what do you call this? On our problem, it should be 75 to 100. Okay? So there is no grade as 101, but it will still print. Okay, your grade is 101 passed. However, it's still invalid, right, in the norms, because grade should be from 0 to 100 only in percentage value. So 101 is invalid. So how to do that in our code? So we can implement it using our AND operator. Okay. So if we can still remember, and is an operator, wherein it will evaluate to true if all of the Boolean expressions or Boolean expressions evaluated to true. Now, um, if it will, one Boolean expression evaluates to false, so the entire expression of the and will evaluate to false. Okay, so let's put it there. Grade is greater than equal to 75. Sorry, mali din pala to. You know, bakit mali siya, yung greater than 75? Because if you will write 75, it is false. So, dapat it should have equal sign. Greater or equal to. So, you'll write and then grade is greater than equal to 75. But it should be lower than 100. Okay? Lower than 101 or lower or equal to 100. So, lesser than or equal to 100. So, earlier, if we entered 101, it's still printed an output. Now, I believe in this case, wala nang output. Okay, 101. Ayun. Perfect. Okay. So, that is our statement of our if statement. So, we'll try to modify our problem. Okay. If it is lesser than 75, that means 74 below, it will print failed. Okay. Print niya yung grade and then failed. Okay. So, to do that, we'll put an else clause here after the if statement. So, in the else clause, we will basically print the same thing. Yung na-change lang is yung failed. So, i-copy ko na, I just copy this, print it here, and then I'll write failed. Sorry, you failed. I'll write sorry because I'm an understanding person. Sorry, you failed. Ayan. I'm copying things. Okay. So, in our else clause is basically the same code which just change yung anong maglabas. Okay? Yung grade and then the printed text which is sorry you failed. Ayan. Okay. So, let's try our code. So, if we will write 75, it will print your grade is 75 pass. Basically, it is part of the range of values wherein 75 to 100 is passed. Now, if we will run again, and then, sorry, I should have used magnifier. Okay. I'll run it again, 75, and then your grade is passed. Okay. Okay. So I'll run again the code, and then I will write 74. Okay, it should print failed. Ayan. Your grade is 74. Sorry, you failed. Okay. So, that is basically if, else, if. So, let's try to modify again our code. Okay. We're in if the grade is 50 to 75, let's say we do have a base 50 grading system, it will print failed. So, lesser than 50 or greater than 100, it will print invalid grade. Okay? Alright. So, we will place another else if clause here. Okay. So, we need to modify this. We'll transform it into an else if, from else to else if statement, because if we will print run it, and then I will input 49, which is basically an invalid grade, it will still print your grade is 49. Sorry, you failed. So it should print invalid grade. So we will modify this else if, so which is similar to our code here. I will just copy this. Okay, grade should be greater than or equal to 50 to make it valid, and it must be lesser than or equal to 74. Okay, so that means 50 to 74, it will print failed. And then we'll write an else clause here to later ka na lang modifier. Okay, I'll write the else clause here to print the invalid statement. Okay, so I'll write system that out that print ln invalid grade. So that means that it is above 100. So grade is lesser than equal to 100. So that means it is above 100 and lesser than 50. Okay, so that is our invalid grade. So you can just this is the last resort, right? The last option. So you don't need to write else if for this. You can just write the else clause because it will be false on the first statement. It will be false on the second Boolean expression. So it will go to the last resort, which is the last condition basically. So you don't need, usually you don't need to write the Boolean expression for the last condition. So J option pane that show message dialog. Okay, dialog null, and then we'll just write invalid grade. Let's use 0. Yeah, and then semicolon. Okay, so this is our else clause, system that out that print ln invalid grade. Okay, magnifier. So let's try if our code is still working. Let's try 98. Okay, your grade is 98, you passed. And then let's try if it is more than 100. So let's try 101. So it displayed invalid grade. And let's try if it is 49, which is basically an invalid grade also. So it printed invalid grade. Okay, so that means our code is correct. So this is our code. I'll just go through with it. Okay. This is our first Boolean expression with our statement if true for the first condition, the second condition, and our statement for this condition 2, and our else clause. Okay? So let's have for your practice problem, okay, let's create a practice problem that you want to practice on your own. So you will still need to create a program, but in this time it will need to input the 3 grade, the 4 grades. 4 grades. So the 4 grades are the prelim grade, midterm grade, semi-final grade, and pre-final grade. And then compute for your final grade which is the average of the 4 grades. Okay. And then you need to print the 4 grades, the final grade, and the letter equivalent of your grade. Okay. So we'll change it here. Let's say, for example, 95 to 100 is A plus. So you need to print A plus. This is the letter equivalent. So, and then 90 to, I'm just making it up, huh? 90 to 94 is A. And then 86 to 89 is B plus. And then 80 to 85 is B. And then 75 to 79 is C. And then 74 below is F. Okay, and then we still have our invalid grade. Lesser than 50 or greater than 100 invalid grade. So this is your practice problem. You will need to create a program that will ask for 4 grades, the prelim grade, midterm grade, semi-final grade, and pre-final grade. And you will compute for your final grade, which is basically the average of the 4 grades. And then you need to print the 4 grades, the final grade, and the letter equivalent of your grade. Okay, let's I want to put name. Let's try to use name. It will the program must also ask for your name and ask for name and for grades. Okay, so you will print the name for grade. So this will be your practice problem. Okay. Thank you for listening in this video. So I hope you learned something about if statement. Okay, so you can watch the next video that I will be posting. It will be about a special decision statement, which is a selection statement called switch.